Meeting of the Dickinson County School Board is now in session. For the record, I would like to recognize that all the school board members are present, as well as Tanya Baker, Board Clerk Scott Mullins, School Board Attorney, and Mrs. Robinson, Division Superintendent. At this time, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence?
I don't see the flag. Usually the flag stands there, but we'll pretend. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Board members, we have the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, we have no addition to the agenda.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. That brings us to public comment. Mr. Hicks, will you please read the guidelines for public comment?
A period of time for public comment will be designated on the meeting agenda, during which the public may comment on issues related to public education. The Dickinson County School Board believes that the citizens of the county should be heard and that this is the acceptable format for receiving public comment. After the public comment section of the meeting is closed, the public shall not be allowed to participate in general board member discussions regarding agenda items. Public participation with the board members regarding agenda items can be disruptive, and the practice is prohibited by Robert's Rules of Order. It is the desire of the school board to treat each member of the public fairly and equally. Allowing one individual to participate while excluding others is unfair. The board may hold such public hearings as may be necessary to allow the public to more fully express their concerns, or the board may place the public comment section of any meeting at the end of the meeting to allow additional public comments. While we do not wish to restrict the free expression of opinion, we feel that certain restrictions may be necessary so that the order and reasonable standards of decorum may be maintained. We ask that the following standards be adhered to. The speaker will be recognized by the chair. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes. Speakers will refrain from the use of vulgarity or profanity and will avoid negative or embarrassing comments directed toward specific children or students. Board members should not respond to issues presented by speakers unless clarification is necessary. Matters of concern raised under public comment will be referred to the proper official for investigation and future board consideration if necessary.
Thank you. Mrs. Martin, will you please be our timekeeper? For public comment, we'd like to recognize Kathy Music with VPE.
Chairman Mullins, Mrs. Robinson, members of the board. First off, I'd like to take the opportunity to wish each of you a wonderful holiday season, Merry Christmas, and hope that 2022 brings much love and joy to each of you. And talking about 2022, the year is ending and Governor Northam is leaving us, but he has one more budget to put in place, and it's looking like it may be really nice for teachers. It's proposed to have a 10.25% raise over the biennium, and also it's looking like it could have some infrastructure, which makes everybody happy with all our aging schools that we have. Of course, you all are ahead of that game a little bit, but incoming governor, Governor-elect Youngkin, also said that was one of the things he ran on, was getting Virginia's teachers' pay up to the state average. So I guess I say that to say, you know, it's hard to believe we're halfway through the school year, another really difficult school year, and it's time to start thinking about budgets and how we're going to get all those pieces together. And I commend you for always trying to put your teachers first, and I hope that as we go forward into this next year, next budget season, we can continue to figure out how to get all the pieces of the puzzle to fit together to make make the strongest school division that you can have. So thank you for what you do. And again, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings us to Phyllis Mullins with the DEA.
Good evening, members of the board, Mrs. Robinson. The DEA is thankful to each and every one of you for everything that you have done. We are especially appreciative of the extra that you have given us. We've got several things coming up that we're looking forward to. The governor's budget could be a hard fight, but VEA is going to be up there in January on the 24th. We'll be having our lobby day, and we expect several thousand members to be there. And we usually have a real good showing. We will be meeting with our legislators before then. We may get to meet in person, but it may be virtual, but we will be having one-on-one conversations with them. The Ipd Conference was well attended that we went to in Richmond. Chandra Mullins and I went, and we had good breakout sessions. We learned a lot, and you really don't know until you hear people from the other end of the state talk about their buildings and their school boards, what we have to appreciate. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. And I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a happy, healthy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mullins, we have no one else signed up for
Okay. Thank you.
public comment.
Our next agenda item is the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes, approval of monthly bills, discussion of school activity funds, approval of field trips, approval of elementary school construction, invoices, and the approval of the bank reconciliation documents. Any questions or discussion on the consent agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Our next agenda item is information for the school board. Mrs. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Isn't it wonderful to have all of these students here with us? I think it's been about a year and a half that we've had any students at our board meetings, so we're just thrilled to have our parents and our students here so that we can recognize them. But first of all, looking at our important dates, information from the board, just some important dates there. The 20th through the 31st, of course, schools will be closed and it's our holiday. January 3rd, which Mr. Deal is going to speak to, is our professional development teacher workday. And then January the 4th, students will return to school for the second semester. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Dennis Deal, Director of Instruction, to briefly share with us about the workday on Monday, January the 3rd. Thank you, Mr. Deal.
Hey, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I guess, as she alluded to, on January the 3rd, we do have a professional development day. On that day, I had several responses from teachers saying that the books that we're using, they were good, and they had a lot of resources, but they need a little bit more exposure to what those resources were and how to locate them. So the book company is going to be doing a virtual presentation for my K-5 teachers. We're going to break it down into K2 and 3-5 bands so that they can address those lower kids' needs better, lower teachers' needs better. Also, on that day, Ms. Karen Martin will be doing a presentation for grades K-12. During that time, they're going to talk about social services and mandated reporting. And the next thing that's going to take place on that day is Mr. Mike Setzer will be doing a presentation on communities and schools. That's the new organization he's with, so I'm curious what that's going to be all about. So I'm sure you'll tell me a little bit more. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, thank you. And if I don't see you anymore, I hope you do have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. All right. I'm going to ask Laura Stanley. I'm sorry, Laura, I do that. Laura Taylor, I'm sorry, Laura. Director of Business and Finance to come, and we are working on the FY23 budget, and so we have several things coming up. Welcome, Ms. Taylor.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. As Superintendent Robinson has said, it is time to start working on the budget for fiscal year 22-23. So we are in the initial phases of that. We're in the data gathering phase right now. So we would like to ask if any of you have any items that you would like to have those considered in next year's budget, any new items, any new ideas that may have financial impacts. If you have any of those, please contact Superintendent Robinson or myself, and we can and certainly work those into our budget considerations. Of course, we have a very short window of time for budget, as you're well aware of, so just try to think about that as you have some time and get those ideas into us so we can work with those. One of the main issues that we are going to see that will change with the budget is the minimum wage increase, of course, does increase again on January the 1st. So we will be budgeting at that new higher rate for minimum wages starting for the entire fiscal year next year. I did include, just as a refresher, in your packets, you have Dickinson County Public Schools part-time and substitute rates. Those were approved for this fiscal year, and of course there were 2 columns at the time in accordance with how the minimum wage was going to change in Virginia. So you'll want to look over to the right-hand side, and those are the minimum wage rates and our part-time substitute rates that will be in effect for all hours worked January 1st, 2022 and in the future. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about budget prep or the change in the rates for January 1st? If there's nothing now, you can feel free to contact Superintendent Robinson or myself at your convenience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Other just information for the board are upcoming virtual conferences and seminars. Please, if any of those look promising or inviting to you, please let us know. I also wanted to share with you that Ms. Tanya Baker received an email from VSBA that next year for the November conference in Williamsburg, Dickinson County may get rooms at the lodge. And so that is such a time saver, because if we've been there before, you know, we have to get room, then we have to travel. But it's on a rotation basis, so Dickinson County schools or public school board may get a room at the lodge where the meeting is actually held. And so it avoids all that traffic, it avoids traveling, all of that. So if you're interested, we are going to reserve rooms in January, so we'll talk more about that. Thank you.
Mrs. Robinson, will you please tell us about good news from our schools?
Oh, I'd love to, I'd love to. It is so wonderful just to see everyone here. And again, I want to thank our staff and our students, our children, our parents, everyone here. We've not had children here, and we forget sometimes. Just seeing them here is such a great honor. I'm going to begin with DECA, and I'm going to ask Chris Robinson, the DECA sponsor, to come. One of our students who will remain nameless shared with us that when the DECA competition and 14 out of the 16 students won, that it was difficult for Mr. Robinson to walk through the door. because he was so excited. And if you know Chris Robinson, he's probably the most humble person, low-key, and so I would have liked to have been there. We're not related, but in a way we are. So I can say that about him, but he's always very calm, very, and so I would have loved to have seen that. But Mr. Robinson, welcome, and please introduce your program and your students.
Don't believe a word they tell you.
I believe every word and more.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the school board members and Ms. Robinson for inviting us here tonight. I'm probably one of the luckiest teachers at Ridgeview. I have a good group of kids that I work with, and they believe in me and believe in what we're doing. So that means a lot when it comes to trying to do club activities and so forth. So at this time, what I want to do is go ahead and announce the winners. What I will do is start with the first place winners. I'll announce their name and the category, and they'll walk up on stage?
Yes, please,
Okay.
if they would, because we'd like to, everyone to see them and for the
Okay.
board to.
All right. Hayden Hickman is first place, Business Service Management. Second place winners will be Madison Mullins, Food Marketing. Morgan Slimp, Principles of Business Administration. Hayden Mullins, Sports and Entertainment Marketing. Abigail Mullins, Human Resource Management. Somebody showed up. Okay. Third place winners will be Diamond Delaney, Apparel and Accessories. Okay, I didn't recognize you. Cadence Cantrell, Principles of Hospitality and Tourism. Clayton Hickman, Job Interview.
Okay.
Braden Sullivan, Automotive Services. And I think I've got everybody that's here tonight, is that correct? Let me just share with you a few minutes here just what these kids go through to get ready for competition. The way it's set up is when they compete, they are presented with a role play. Okay, and in that role play, there will be a situation that they have to solve. Okay? Now, here's the kicker. They got 10 minutes to read the scenario, to read the role play. They make notes within that 10 minutes. Okay, once that 10 minutes is up, they meet with the judge and present their solution to the scenario. So, it's a task, and they do an excellent job. They responded to practices, and I just, my hats go off to them. They do a great job.
That's wonderful.
So, thank you all. Thank you.
And would the parents of the children that are represented here, would you please stand? Our parents, thank you for your support.
Thank you.
And our hats off to you, Mr. Robinson. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, everyone. Also, Mr. Robinson, we understand that the first place winners will be going to Virginia Beach
Yes.
in March.
Also, we were able to take some second place winners,
Oh, wonderful,
so that's worked out good too.
wonderful,
That's great.
wonderful. Our next group that we'd like to invite is Mr. White and his staff that work with our Scholastic. And if they'll introduce themselves and welcome again.
Good evening, guys. Good to see y'all again. So as Ms. Robinson mentioned, it's our Scholastic Bowl. Joy Hall is not able to be here tonight, but Holden, other assistant coach, and then Jordan Kern is our middle school coach. So,
All right.
yeah, so we've had a good tradition from my wife started the middle school, and now we have kept going with it, and we're hoping that in the future, as it has the last couple of years, it's really gave us a good head start on all the other schools. So a lot of schools are jealous. They tell me all the time, you're able to walk over to the middle school and be able to recruit, and we can't even do that. So it's a huge advantage. I don't think some of us realize the advantage that we have over some of those schools in the Mountain 7. So they're very envious, which I'm okay with that. Yeah,
that's okay.
So at this time, I'll go ahead and announce our team members, and one at a time you can come up. Landon Couch, David Farmer, Captain Brody Buchanan, Rachel Mullins, Caitlin Charles, Connor Kaiser, Daniel Greer, Benjamin Moore, and one more, Madison Mullins. And Josh Mullins. Two more. Yeah, I'm about to say, if I didn't announce Josh, you'd never let me live to see the end of it. So anyway, so we have concluded our regular season this year, and we are standing at 8-4. Tied right now for second place, going to the district tournament, which will be at the end of January. Very proud of these guys, very hard workers. We start the first week of September, and if you make regionals, we're not done until March.
Wow.
So we're talking 6-7 month season, and if you make state, you're talking 8 months so almost a whole school year can be dedicated to what we do. So. They put in a lot of hours, so I'm very proud of them. And like I said, hopefully, when we come January, tournament comes around, we're going to catch fire, and so we can make regionals again like we did last year. So, like I said, guys, this is your team, and our parents out there are being great this year.
If they will please stand, our parents of our Scholastic Bowl, would you please stand to be recognized?
They are a huge support to me and our coaching staff, so I couldn't be proud of these guys, so they deserve all the accolations that we can give them. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a good holiday.
Thank you very much, Mr. White, Mr. Davis, Mr. Kern. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. You can do that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Our last group that we'd like to recognize is April Hay and Portia Fletcher, and I'd like to ask them to come. If you've been around at all our cafeteria, there's always a great debate about white biscuits and wheat biscuits. And so Miss Fletcher and Miss Hay had this as a learning experience for our students, and so I'd like for them, are any of your students here?
I don't think so, Mrs. Robinson. Not quite sure about it. I think it's just the two of us.
All right.
I promise
So
the story will be entertaining.
Yeah. All right, Miss Hay, if you like to, you and, do you have something for us? Okay.
Well, we
All right.
do. Okay, as Mrs. Robinson mentioned, this did start out as, I guess, as an issue that I noticed in the classroom, especially when I have a room full of teenagers and most of them boys. No one was eating breakfast. And they would bring it to the room, but it usually ended up on the counter or in the trash can, and it kind of bothered me. So I started asking questions, why aren't you eating? You're teenagers, you should be doing this. So the common answer was, we don't like it. And I said, well, why not? And they started complaining about the whole wheat biscuits. They just weren't very tasty. So I got to thinking, what can I do? So I called Mrs. Compton at the school board office and explained what was going on in the classrooms, that it bothered me that the kids were going this long and not eating. So she suggested that I contact my senator. So that's when my lesson plan was born. I thought, why should I do it when I've got 70 kids that could write letters, and Ms. Fletcher has 70 kids that could write letters, so that's what we did. So it was a great learning experience for the kids. We went through the entire writing process of how to write the letters. We talked about the issue. We talked about things that we should put in it, things that we should say, and the importance of what we were doing. And we actually went through the entire gamut. They did the planning, they did the proofreading, they did the editing, and they did the typing. And yes, we did have to teach them how to sign their name in cursive. And we practiced all of this stuff, and thus the letters were created. So then our goal here was, we thought that perhaps we could get a nice little card or a letter from the senator to acknowledge what the students were doing. So that was our goal here. We were working toward that. So one day on evening bus duty, here comes Mr. Whitner toward me, and he's talking as he's walking, and he looks at me and he said, "Miss Hay, did you have your students write letters to the senator about biscuits?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And he said, "Well, you have a parent on the phone that's needing some more information." So I go in and I put on my best teacher voice, very pleasant, at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I said, "This is Miss Hay, how can I help you?" And the gentleman introduced himself and said, "I'm calling from Senator Warner's office in Richmond about your biscuit issue." And I'm like, okay. So we've got someone's attention. So he said that the letters had reached Senator Warner, and he had been reading them, and he was interested in what was going on, why our students wasn't enjoying the breakfast and all that. So I answered the questions to the best of my ability. And then he informed me that the letters were being sent to our local office in Abingdon, and someone there would be in contact with us. So a few days go by, and I get an email from the representative there saying, "We would like for you to call the office at your earliest convenience so we can discuss a plan with you." So I'm thinking, okay, I have no authority to create a plan. I have no authority to approve a plan, but I'll make the phone call anyway. So I did, and again, we went through the gamut of, what's going on, what was your process here, what did you do, and all this. So he then informs me that Senator Warner was on board with this. He wanted to work with it to see if he could do something about getting our white biscuits back so the students would eat. So at that point, he tells me that Senator Warner wants to treat all of our 7th grade students to breakfast from Hardee's. So I didn't wait for anyone's approval. I accepted that, and I said, "Sure, we can do that." So then when I proposed this to Mr. Whitner, he looks at me and he's all excited because he likes the white biscuits too. And he says, "You will need to get this approved by Mrs. Robinson." So then my first thought was, I didn't ask Mrs. Robinson if we could do this, so now I'm going to have to tell Mrs. Robinson we're having breakfast from the senator without her approval. But so I spoke with Mrs. Robinson, and she was on board, and she said, "Now," and I'll remember, and I'm going to quote you on this, Mrs. Robinson. You said, "Now, April, I'm sure you will do this, but I want you to proofread those letters word for word, because we do not want you to send letters that have all these mistakes." So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to tell Mrs. Robinson that we've already sent the letters and what's going on. So I did, and she was gracious. She was all excited too, because she said she also likes white biscuits.
Yeah, I like white biscuits.
So, moving forward, the date was set. So on November the 5th, at approximately 8:30, here comes Mr. Shane Clem from the Abingdon office with Hardee's biscuits, probably the most productive day of the Hardee's in Clintwood. Not only did all of the 7th grade students have Hardee's biscuits paid for by the senator, but all the 7th grade teachers, cafeteria staff, custodians who were in the cafeteria helping with this process, we all had Hardee's biscuits paid for by Senator Warner. So Mr. Clem, if you will start our presentation. Mr. Clem comes and he speaks with the students, telling them, that they are, their voices were heard and how important it was for them to get it out there, their issues, and that they can make a change. So the students also prepared questions, and he did a very excellent job answering those questions for them. So here we have some pictures of some of the students with their Hardee's biscuits, and it was a very enjoyable experience. Not everybody can say that the senator bought breakfast for them. And I think the final picture here is coming up, and the one on the right is obviously someone who needs to lay off the biscuits, but it was an enjoyable experience. Last I heard from Mr. Clem, he said that Senator Warner he does have a representative, and he is in contact with the USDA, still working on getting this changed for me. So I'm also a firm believer that if we get our white biscuits back, then attendance will improve in the county, because we had good attendance that day. So that's my story, Mrs. Robinson. I did it again. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Oh, that's great.
That was great. And Senator Warner has always been such a strong supporter of Dickinson County and our Dickinson County schools, and so we're very proud to be a part of that. Mr. Mullins, if we could just have just a short recess.
Sure.
Because some of our students and their families you're welcome to stay for the meeting, but if you'd like to leave, you'll have a few minutes to do that during our recess. And thank you very much for coming. I'm going to ask Ms. Martin if she'll just come to the front, please, and tell us about our enrollment and our attendance. I think those are the yellow sheets in your packet.
Good evening. I thought she'd forgot me. I was smiling a little bit, and then she caught me and remembered me. I'm glad we're in the good news from our schools, because our attendance this month, compared to last month, we are up 1 student, so that's good. It's better to be up 1 than down 1. We will still have a deficit compared to last year, but I guess one battle at a time. So I'm excited about that 1 student that we are up. The percentages for the month, Clintwood overtook Irvington this month with 90.05. Irvington had 89.57. And then, as you can see, we're hanging pretty close in the 88, 89 range. Hopefully, if things will calm down, we can get back in the 90 to 93 range, which has always been our goal. The information that's in the packet with you is the same thing that I give you each month, just to give you an idea of how the numbers break out. There's also at the back of the packet is as far as the withdrawals and new entries. I like to give you a copy of that as well. Are there any questions?
And of course, the quarantines, Ms. Martin, are affecting our percentages, aren't they?
They are. If a student is in quarantine or test or out for COVID, it's listed as excused absences. If they do their work while they're gone, while they're out, then we can change that to present remote per the VDOE, and that helps a whole lot. So each school is working diligently to remind students of, do your work while you're out, and you can get credit, and the days won't count against you. And we're improving greatly with that. I think we're at 80% now, that 80% of the students have been doing their work while they're quarantined so that we can count them.
And instruction can continue. Yeah.
Yes. So we're pleased with that, and we'll continue to push for more kids to do the work if they're quarantined. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, I thank you, and I'm with everyone else. I wish you a happy holidays. I'm excited to taste this rub, but my friend Mr. Hicks is done, so we'll join us for that. So we're excited. I do wish you a happy holidays, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Thank you. So our next agenda item is update on the new elementary school. Mrs. Robinson.
All right. I'm going to ask Mr. Burge and Mr. Ellswick to come to the front. They're going to be sharing with us a little bit about our building. I know that several of you had the honor to tour it today. And then also Mr. Ellswick with Mr. Mullins will tell us about the PPA process and update us on that. Welcome, sir.
Welcome. Good to see you all this evening. As some of you walk through the school, you can see it's continually changing. Things are going well. We've had great weather for the past couple weeks, and wish we could have been putting a roof on last week. But anyway, the progress has been pretty good this month. Seems like I was just here reporting, but it has been a month. They should have topped out the last CMU all today for the load bearing on the second floor. The steel guys will be back next week to finish the bar joist and the roof decking. The roofer started Monday, on the insulation that they had. They've got the roof over the electrical room, which is very important, so we can start getting switchgear set and getting power into the building from AEP. Along with, they've got about half of the kitchen covered. So as long as they have material, they'll continue work. The remaining material is supposed to be here next week. Hopefully that date holds and there's not a delay. There's a lot of subcontractors out there working now. Electricians are roughing in the walls, putting the boxes in and conduit and above the ceiling, where we've already poured the slab on the second floor. The plumbers have been installing their copper piping for the water lines. The sprinkler guy has pretty much put his rough end in for the first floor. They are forming the last ICF wall on the north side of the classroom wing this week. We'll probably be pouring that next week, or if not this week. I expect it to be next week, though. So things are going good. The site guys are finishing up the storm work and are planning to install the fiber conduit from the high school over to the new building for the fiber connection between the buildings. Like I said, Skanska's been on site and we've been monitoring the work and quality. Things are looking good. Project's still on budget. All the furniture and fixtures have been ordered. We got that order in so we wouldn't get a big price increase. So hopefully in the next few weeks, there will be a lot of it on the roof by the next school board meeting, and have a good report for you at that time as well. Next week, they plan to start the brick on the east side, while the steel guys are working on this side. So it's going well. Any questions? All right, I appreciate it, and if I don't see you again, I'll wish you Merry Christmas.
Mr. Burge, do you want to review the
I was going to do it for you.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't know.
Curtis would have had a hard time probably with them. Oh, no, sorry about that. That's pretty embarrassing, isn't it?
That's okay. You have a copy of this, and several of you saw this today, so that's exciting.
So this is a picture of the second floor. It's a little bit different. I've been showing you pictures from the roof of the middle school down on it, but this month we've done it a little different. This is the classroom wing that is running with the school, next to the school. As you can see the school there through the window openings. This is the walls are poured. This is where they'll be setting bar joists and decking next week. Next. This is where they are forming this wall here on the right, on the north side, the wing that runs this way, across the back. They already have that wall up above the windows, formed up. So it's moving along really well. Next. This is the office area. They will be putting the decking over this next week as well. And you can see sprinkler pipe laying on the floor. This is for the rough end on the second floor because most all the pipe on the first floor is already installed. Next. This is the electrical room. This was our last concrete pour in the building. Next. This is looking down the main corridor. You can see sprinkler pipe hanging up there. You can see copper. You can see the walls are up, decking's on, concrete's poured above it. So it's moving well there as well. Next. This is the front entrance where the stair and the slide will go. Next. This is one of the classroom walls. Maybe a little hard to tell, but like I said, you can see the plumbing that's already in the wall. They've already ran the conduits in there and above the ceiling. Getting ready for it to get dried in so we can insulate and start hanging drywall. Next. This is another picture of one of the load-bearing walls on the second floor. Next. This is some of the storm work on the outside of the building on the west side. This is where we had to move it out for the new addition. Next. I think that's the last one. Any questions? Again. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Ellswick. Good to have you with us, sir.
Yep, and Tim did do a much better job than I could have done on this picture, so give him credit. Good evening, everybody. It's good to see you and be back to give an update on, I guess it's only fitting to follow up on Tim's presentation of the new elementary school to talk about the next phase, which is the, what we're calling the classroom wing addition. As you, take this down, okay? As you're well aware, you have received about $5.1 million in ESSER funds to build this addition. And shortly thereafter, you received a proposal from Questenberry's Construction, who teamed with Z&M Architects, Engineers, and the Lane Group, same team that's building the elementary school, to design and construct this classroom wing addition, which you all approved that proposal a couple months back. So since then, we have been working back and forth with them to vet the design, what the project's going to end up actually being, how many classrooms, what it's going to look like, the cost of that, the schedule, all the fine details, which have culminated into an interim agreement, which you have a copy of, and is about an inch or so thick, that you have with you tonight. And so, there's a lot of detail in here, but in essence, it's similar format to what you approved for the new elementary school. Mr. Mullins has been involved with helping us finalize this contract, which Questenberry's Construction is comfortable with, and we feel like we're comfortable with. It does include certain things like it has a contract cost limit, the maximum that you're going to pay for design and construction of that classroom wing. It's got details on what the design is going to look like. It's got schedule information. All the terms and conditions of a contract are in here. But like I said, it's very similar to the one that you approved for the new elementary school. That contract only includes, you're only paying them for design phase services. At this point, they were going to come back to you with a guaranteed maximum price, like they did in the new elementary school, probably around the March timeframe, somewhere around there. Assuming that it's still good and we can fit it within the confines of this contract, then we would execute a construction contract for them to start construction mostly late spring, early summer next year. So about the time the new elementary school is wrapping up, they're going to start working on the new addition so that it can be finished in the spring of next year, give us plenty of time to move furniture in and get ready for the next school year.
And Mr. Elzick, if I could interrupt you just for a second. Members of the board, Mr. Elzick will be going with us into closed session tonight. Some of the details of the agreement involve closed session materials on negotiations, pricing, things like that. And those are things that I think we would prefer to deal with initially in closed session. So we wanted to do this so the public would be generally aware of what was going on, that we were moving forward on the design work, that we were doing an agreement on that, but we will go into the weeds a little bit further about this in closed session.
So the timeline moving forward would be the board to approve moving forward with this agreement with Questenberry's Construction so that design can start in January, in essence. We still have to go to the Board of Supervisors on December 28th, ask for their approval. So we're going to make sure they have a copy of this and, help work through any details or questions they have between now and then. But assuming they approve it, we would execute it, and like I said, they would be off and running on the design of the new addition. So, Scott, I don't know if you have anything to add about.
No, I just think it's important for the board to understand that the interim agreement that we're talking about tonight is for the design work. And the design work is to make sure that they design a school that we can afford within our budget. And so this is an important step one. But it's not the big step. The big step is actually the construction contract later on. But this is exactly the way we did it before with this school, the PPA. This is the typical approach that we take when doing a PPA procurement.
Any questions for me at this time?
And again, Mr. Elzick will be coming back, and we'll sort of drill down just a little bit about the negotiated concepts when in closed session.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Ellswick. We certainly appreciate those members of the board that could tour today. I apologize for the short notice. When we saw today's meeting and then we saw the weather was going to cooperate, we thought we can't miss this opportunity because other times it's been raining or it's been too cold or it's getting darker. But several of you shared with me that you had a great experience, and so that was wonderful. And just think how exciting that's going to be. So, thank you.
Our next agenda is the proposed process for the Dickinson County School Board reorganizational meeting in January of '22. Mrs. Robinson?
Thank you. Before you, we have just a proposed process for the reorganizational meeting, which will take place in January 2022. The date will be to be determined. If we have an earlier, if we have a special call meeting early in January, then we will have the reorganizational meeting before we have that. It was very similar to last year. Again, a board chair will be elected, the election of officers, the meeting dates and times, discussion for nuts and bolts. We proposed meeting dates as we did this past year on the fourth Wednesday of each month, but we can certainly, at the board's pleasure, change that. So I also included just the proposed dates for your attention and your consideration. So questions or comments regarding the reorganizational meeting or any changes that the board would like to discuss for the reorganizational meeting?
Do we have a date for that meeting?
Excuse me?
Do we have a date for that meeting?
We do not yet, Mr. Hicks, but I believe, Mr. Hicks, that if we, with the interim agreement, we may have to have scheduled a